Thanks for listening to our podcast, Living Life with the Rogers. My name is Cameron.
And I'm Kira, and this is a lifestyle podcast where we talk about hashtag all the things and share our unpopular opinions. Tune in.
Hello, and welcome to Living Life with the Rogers. I'm here with my co-host, Kira.
Hello.
And we're excited to bring you part 2 of Church Hurt. We're going to dive into it a little bit more, talk a little bit more of our reflections of the original podcast and kind of what we've learned since we've experienced some church hurt and where we're at now.
When did we record the first one?
Like year and a half ago, probably. So,
was it 23? Yeah, it was 23.
Time's a blur, so that was a whole lifetime ago was when we did that. So it'll be kind of cool to catch you all up more.
So it was almost 2 years ago we started doing this.
We're getting old.
I don't have that many episodes to show for it, but you know what?
I think we should
called perseverance.
I think we should say what sicknesses have occurred since our last podcast. Let's see. Norovirus.
Well, it's just
stomach
like,
bug, right?
yeah,
Basically,
it's everything. It's just life. It's businesses. It's kids. It's homeschool. It's sports. It's chores. Do I need to keep going?
We have time.
Everything. We have no time.
Okay. I thought we had we have no time, but on the podcast, we always have time. So we've been a little bit busy, but we're back. One thing that just happened recently was the Grammys. Let's explain our situation.
You don't like to watch the Grammys. I like to watch the Grammys. And I like to watch the Grammys because first I need to stay relevant so I don't age like in a bad way. Like I hate people who are like, oh, I'm like, come on, stay in touch.
Stay in touch
with reality.
Most ridiculous reality that is life.
Not saying that like I have to agree with everything that's happening, but I like to just know what's going on out in the world. And two,
does the Grammys give you a sneak peek into the world? Like,
I mean,
where in the world? Wait. When you're walking to your grocery store,
affects a lot.
Okay, so you're telling me you're going to like what Lidl or Aldi's or whatever these places are.
I don't even go to the grocery store
and you see
anymore.
This kid with a house on his head, and that's like what?
I don't even have time to go to the grocery store.
Oh, and actually, let me give you directions. So you're looking for where the Dunkin' Donuts is. So you turn right. You're going to pass the Pink Pony Club, which is over there to your left. Don't get distracted.
I do go to the Dunkin' Donuts, so I do know where that is.
Like it's not relevant for life. Come on.
No, Hollywood, whether you like it or not, influences society and culture. Again, I'm not saying I agree with everything that happens there. I disagree with a lot of things that happens there, but it still influences our world. And anyway, the fashion is the main reason why I watch it. I love to see the outfits.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear a house on my head. That was my highlight. Best outfit by far. I just love that
he committed to it the whole time. Like he did not take that off his head.
He wore it the whole show.
Yes.
Oh my, that's incredible. It's Will Smith and their son, right? Jada Pinkett Smith's son.
I don't know who you just said, but yeah, it's Will Smith's Jada Smith. Yeah, it's Will Smith. So.
Okay, so you're telling me he wore it for the whole 3 hours?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just applaud that. Fantastic.
He was committed. Taylor looked stunning. Of course, I loved the little T detail hanging on her thigh. It was so cute.
Now, can she do any wrong? I mean, what outfit would she have to wear for Swifties to be like, I didn't like that?
Well, if she pulled what Kanye's wife pulled, then
you would go too far, T. So too far.
So she could do wrong. But
are you sure? But what if she did that?
But she's classy. She's never gonna.
If she did that, the Kanye thing, then but if she did it, dude, but
no, that's nice. No, we would be concerned. We would be like, something happened, something's wrong with our girl, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Swifties would be like sending all the popo there to like check on her. Like it would be like something's wrong if she showed up like that. Which also, I think something's wrong with Kanye's wife, but.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Well,
that was bizarre.
And meanwhile, I'm down. We split up. So you were in our bedroom watching the Grammys. I made the wise decision. A lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I made the wise decision to go on the main floor and watch NASCAR, which is the Busch Clash, which was fantastic. So no, I did not see anybody wearing houses on their heads. No, nobody was getting butt naked in front of the cameras. It was just cars going fast. It was my kind of speed.
It was bizarre. And I'm in the camp that like, the Grammys call was just making up for Beyonce not winning past awards when she should have. I don't understand how she beat the Tortured Poets Department, even if people want to say, oh, it wasn't her greatest album. Like if you look at the numbers, it was the most streamed album of last year. And then also behind her was Billie Eilish, and she didn't get it either. And it's like, It just didn't make sense.
I'm on Camp Eilish. I think if I had to pick who should win, we're talking about the whole record album of the year, whatever it is, the finale. Eilish should have won. That's where I'm going down with.
I wanted to see Taylor make history with 5 albums of the year,
and as a country fan,
so what?
I love country.
There's so many good.
I'm weird because a lot of country fans are OGs only, and you can't change it and stuff. And I'm like, I understand things have to adapt and change. All I'm saying is her winning country album of the year. I mean, do we even try?
That was just it's just because Jay-Z called out the Academy last year, and so they were just trying to honor that and whatever makeup calls. But it's like,
I would argue
Taylor was nominated for 6 awards. You're telling me you couldn't give her one of those? Like, what?
Well, how many did she win last year? She won a lot.
Maybe 2, maybe 3. It wasn't like a ton, but it's just like, bro, she got gypped.
Yeah, I feel like she should walk out with one. Country album, like Shabuzi's song. I mean,
he won. He won one.
Did he win?
Yeah,
that's.
I think he got song of the year. So it's like some of the awards were like good. Like Chappelle Roan won for, I think it was Pink Pony Club, and Billie Eilish did win for Birds of a Feather, whatever. Like there were some that were like, okay, yeah, but it's like, how did Taylor not get any? She had 6 nominations. Like, I don't understand.
All right, Swifties, tell us your reasoning. What's going on? Share your frustration. Of course, all Swifties
were like, Taylor, we know you wrote that album for us. It was our album of the year. We love you. Thank you for writing it for us. But like, of course, they were like full support. But it's just like, little sus. I don't want to know who the voters are. They always say the 13,000 members.
I want their names and addresses.
13,000 members of the Recording Academy. And this is the winner. It's like, okay, it's just someone with money that's making all these decisions.
So for the viewing audience, you're like, why are they like in their little, like, first of all, we're out of the closet still, which is incredible for our podcast. But second of all, we're dressed a little cold. It is freezing. We're in the basement. It is like, I mean, we have the heat turned up, and I want to say it's like 35 degrees down here. So we're wearing jackets, hats, and you're just going to have to live with it. So thanks for bearing with us.
All right. So let's get to
Church Hurt Part 2.
Yeah. Let's get into it a little bit.
You look like you're going to like ask me a question, or like you're going to grill me.
I was just thinking where to take this. So let's do like a post 2-year reflection on what we had said in the first episode, which you
just
can go
take it all and scrap it.
You can go listen to it. It was back in 2023. So good. Well, actually, you don't even have to scroll back that far, because I think we only have like 24 episodes. So it won't take it that long.
We're taking it easy.
What are some thoughts you've had since then? So
I think the original episode was really cool because it was spreading awareness. That was our motivation for why we put it out there, was just to tell people, hey, if you've been hurt by the church, you're seen and you're heard. And not only that,
your feelings are valid.
We can validate them.
Yes.
And so that was the main motivation. And I think that's exactly what the purpose was done. Now there's more to the story. And that's kind of where I want to spend a little bit of time. And I think one of the first things that I just want to make sure that's loud and clear and fully understood is that the enemy, the devil, loves to creep in churches, and he loves to cause disruptions and chaos, and he loves to represent himself as if he's Christ-like, or as if he's representing a believer, and he loves to upset people. And so I think there's that going on in a lot of these situations. I think there's the devil causing chaos because he wants nothing more than a lot of people leaving churches, becoming disconnected, and never coming back to church again.
Yeah, and turning away from Jesus. I mean, that's his ultimate goal.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't exempt when there are human beings in this world that are complete idiots. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
you are doing such a bad job of falsely claiming that you know Christ. So you're sitting there claiming it. You go to these churches, and we call those wolves. But again, that's not.
But it's clothing. Like, it's easy to hate that person, or like be, think that they're terrible humans. But it's like the reality is, well, they're controlled by Satan. I mean, it's Satan working in them that makes them that way. And so it's like, because God created everyone to be in relationship with him and to love him, and he gave us good qualities, each one of us. Everyone has so much potential. Even like the most horrific criminals, or the people who have done like the absolute like unfathomable things, they're not horrible people. They just have given in to Satan and they're following Satan instead of following Jesus. And so there's death there instead of life. And so it's like, yeah, Satan will get into the places where people shine the brightest and where they're doing the most work for Jesus and get in there and want to cause chaos and confusion and get them out of that.
Oh, correct. And now that doesn't excuse those people from holding the
you still have to have
responsibility for the
accountability.
hurts and the pains.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I would say the step number one is I just feel like the enemy just doesn't want people in church. And so he purposely just makes it a mission, and he did it, and it worked temporarily for us. It got us out of the church because we were so hurt. We were so bothered. We were like, that didn't feel like who Jesus was. And that doesn't, at that time, it didn't feel like what we thought a community of believers would be like.
Well, and I could probably dedicate a whole nother episode to this, but just as like a quick point, like even people who you don't like go to church with, but claim to be following Jesus can hurt you and affect your walk with God. So it doesn't even like look like, oh, you go to church and then you get hurt by people at your church. It could also be just people in your life that you know that are claiming to be Christians and claiming to believe in God, but then they're hurting you or manipulating you or accusing you of things. And then that can kind of stunt your relationship with God because you're like, well, wait a second. Like, I thought that you loved Jesus too. And like, it kind of it gets you a little turned off to God because you're like, well, if they're claiming they know God and they're acting like that or treating me this way, like, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, I don't want to follow that same God. So it can be like outside of the church. I guess we're talking about just people who claim to be following Jesus, I guess.
Well, if we're talking out of the church, I have a work experience where that happened, where the guy I worked with, I'm not going to throw names or anything, but the guy I used to work with, he was claiming to be a Christian, and he didn't believe in women working. And he was a bully to all the women in the office. And so here he is doing so much damage. I mean, there were people working next to me that would leave a phone call from him crying. And then, as a believer myself, I was like, I'm seeing this injustice. I see this guy claiming that he knows, he's, I'm a believer. But he's like bullying women. I'm like, well, if you open the Bible for 2 seconds, all Jesus did, or not all, he did a lot of things, but part of his mission was empowering women. So I'm like, that's contradictory to what I know is the truth. So yes, it happens inside and outside the walls where the enemy comes in disguise. We call it a wolf in sheep's clothing. Oh my gosh, never going to use that one again. And he likes to come in, he likes to cause a lot of chaos, disruption, and all that. So I'd say that's number one. That happens in the church. That happens outside the church. But number two is, this is what dawned on me. A lot of my hurts, a lot of them had to do with myself. And the church can be like a mirror. And in our house, we don't have that many. We have a couple, above our sinks and whatever. But if you don't like the look of yourself, you don't like mirrors. And now if you like the look of yourself, you love a mirror. Every corner you put a mirror, you stare at yourself, check yourself out. But sometimes when a mirror comes up to your soul and to who you are, it's disgusting. It's not something you want to look at. And so I'll kind of give you a scenario is, in looking back at some of my church hurts, I wanted to be a pastor so much. And in my head, I was like, I'm perfect for this position. I'm a great speaker. I'm poised, all this stuff. And now that I'm out of it, now that I'm 38 and I've spent a lot of time in construction and God stretched me and stuff, I'm like, oh my goodness, how I was still immature. I thought too highly of myself, too proud, too arrogant. There was a lot of issues there. And I just kind of ignored them. I just assumed, okay, I'm in my 20s. I know everything at this point. And that's normal. And I didn't take the time to let that mirror expose me for who I was and accept that there were some issues, to accept that there were some things I had to kind of go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his timing is everything. There's been so many things, like, I feel like he gives me like visions on things, and I don't feel like the visions are wrong, but a lot of times I'm wrong on the timing. So it's like, just because he gives you a vision for something or a passion for something doesn't mean it's for right now. It could be down the road. And he could just be kind of being like, hey, like, this is where I want you to go. Like, this is what we're working towards. This is like where we're going to end up. But, we got some work to do along the way. So it's funny, like, a lot of times when he says no on things, this has happened so many times in my life where he like says no. And I'm like throwing a hissy fit. I'm like, what the heck? Like, you don't love me. Like, you don't, don't you want me to be happy? Like, I know you have this for me. And then he's just like, oh, silly little girl. Like, it's just, you're not ready. Like, it's not for now. So I think that we can look back at some of her church hurt experience and be like, yeah, it was painful in the moment, but it was just God saying like, no, not now. You're just not ready. Like, I know what's best for you. You need to trust in my timing, kind of thing.
Oh, correct. And in every single instance, it's funny because in the moment, I remember thinking those people are the problem. It wasn't me. I wasn't the problem. I did everything I was told to do. I was right. I mean, and I wanted to make sure that was the answer. I wanted to make sure that was it. I was like, yeah, that is it. I was doing everything right. They made mistakes. They hurt me. And that's the end of it. And I feel like that's a young thing too. A young person's problem is like, they never have problems. It's everybody else is the problem. And now that I've matured, it's easy to look at my soul in the mirror the older I get because I want to expose anything that's inauthentic. I want to start to expose anything that just doesn't need to be there. It's kind of like finally opening up that long lost closet in your house. It's like time to open it up and see what's really inside.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. Like when I think about pastors, I'm like, you kind of, I mean, I don't know. This could go both ways, but I feel like it is cool to hear from pastors who are a little bit older, but again, still in touch with reality. Because I hate when people like get so old and they're like, "How do you relate to us? Like, you don't even know what we're going through." But
you didn't even watch the Grammys. How can I trust you?
I know, but it's like, it is interesting to hear from pastors who have like lived life. Like, I love hearing like real life stories and experiences and ways that God worked through their lives. Like that really speaks to me. So it's like, yeah, you become a pastor. And I'm not saying you can't become a pastor at a young age. By all means, if God calls you to and he equips you, he'll give you things, examples to teach on and all of this stuff. But it is cool to hear from pastors who have like lived life before they start preaching. Cause you're like, wow, these are some really cool stories. Like I saw how good God was working through it, through those stories.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that's the timing piece for sure, is that God has a time and a place for everything. And so it could be a time for something good in the church. It could be a time for something that, okay, it's time to move on to the other church. But we get so, instead of seeing God as working and going, okay, maybe it's time for us to make a change with the church. Instead, we're so focused on the situation. God might be using that situation to help promote the change, and we're seeing the resistance, and we're just upset at the situation and not seeing what God's doing. We're missing the mark, basically.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like before you just up and leave a church or a community, like it's important to really try and resolve a lot of these issues. Again, we're not talking about like extreme cases of abuse or manipulation. There's no place for that. But I feel like we're so like easily offended these days. And like, it's like, okay, can you at least try to talk through this talk through the problem, come up with a resolution, give each other some time and grace to fix the issues before you're just like, oh, she hurt my feelings, I'm out. It's like sometimes you got to stick with it.
Aren't we seeing that less and less in society? It's more of just like, oh, I don't talk to them anymore. Why don't I talk? Well, one time we had this fan and they were a jerk. And it's like, well, did you ever tell them they hurt your feelings? Yeah. Well, no. Okay. Well, do you feel like you need? Well, no, I just haven't talked to them in 2 years. Okay. I mean, if that's how you and
that's the enemy.
That is the enemy. So to your point, okay, you experienced some hurt. This is the checklist that now at 38, what I would say is a better way to do it.
Them or me?
Yeah. Well, I would start. No, start with yourself. Yeah. Just already start there. Don't worry about anything with them. Go to yourself. What's going on with you? What are you feeling? What's it bringing? Is it bringing up some insecurity that you buried deep into your closet? Is it? And that was for me. I thought I was equipped. I was 20 some. I was ready to pastor and take things over and. I mean, there's some pride and arrogance in that. And there was a little bit of a know-it-all-y kind of attitude that was creeping in. And now, I've been in construction for 7-8 years. That'll teach you something. Raising, back then we had a newborn child. Now I have 4. Well, that'll teach you something. And so I can see now, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of things at play. I didn't look at myself first. I just got mad at other people. That's a problem. Then when we did that, we kind of wanted to withdraw, but thank God when we went through some of the church hurts, we did bring people to our table. And I would say that is for sure one thing we did right. And I would encourage everybody to do moving forward. Get on the phone with those people. Grab them, invite them. You know what? This is an old school tradition here. I'm going to age myself here. Invite them to your dinner table. Is that a thing anymore or no? Are we just like, have dinner tables just died?
Pretty much.
Like we got our Kelly Clarkson table. You should see
Oh, yeah, we do have a new table.
Oh
It's
my gosh. And so that's a dying tradition because we're all so busy with our after school activities. Nobody sits at the dining table anymore. But one thing we did do is the people we were having the issues with had them at our table. And before you make any changes, before you do it, like reflect on yourself, let the mirror hit you, then talk to the people, have a mature, honest, open conversation.
And I always want to make sure, like, before I'm moving on to what God has for me next, that I'm taking care of what he had for me previously. It's like I like to kind of tie up ends. I'm like, okay, if I'm moving into a new season, he's calling me to something different. Like, let's make sure we end the last season on like a good note and say anything that needs to be said, do anything that needs to be done, and then you can move forward on a clean slate. And I think we talked about this in the first episode. Then you're not just bringing your hurt into the new situation because then it's just going to keep happening. Like if you're not taking care of.
Can you imagine the next church that gets a hold of you? Like, I mean, they're like, we don't have enough people on the staff to deal with all this chaos.
But even if you think about your walk with God back then in your 20s versus your you could argue you didn't even really have a relationship with God back then. You knew the scriptures, you knew religion, but I feel like the last couple years you've had the most authentic encounter with the Holy Spirit. So it's like, if you were preaching back, you did preach back then and you did a great job. I'm not going to say that, but it's like, now if you were to speak, it's like, and you've actually experienced the Holy Spirit, it's a whole different conviction. Would you agree?
Conviction is the right word, because now it's not just a verse I've memorized.
Well, now
it's
you're not
life.
you're not like repeating.
I've lived this.
Yeah, it's like you can repeat things and teach people, which is good, but it's like now, you're talking from personal experience.
Well, what you're saying is there's teachers, right? There's teachers that okay, so you're a math teacher, right? Okay, well the book tells you to teach it this way. Well, it's another thing if you're a teacher, but on the side, you are a mathematician that actually calculates problems and then uses these problems to solve issues out in the real world. Now, when you're teaching the classroom, you're teaching out of personal experience and conviction. That's a huge difference. But I love your point. I want to highlight that is that people just think, I didn't like that church. I'm just going to go to a new church. A new church is going to fix my problems. I can guarantee you that problem's going to follow you because there's a good chance that problem might be you. There's a good chance of that. And so before you burn another church with that problem, see what you can do and what you can kind of purge out before you go to the next church. Because it's like people that bounce from relationship to relationship.
I just feel like as a society, as a country, we should all be entering our healing era. I just feel like there's I follow this one girl on Instagram, and I'm not going to try and pronounce her last name because I don't know how to say it, but her name's Lindsay, and she has a podcast called In It. And she disappeared from the internet for 6 months last year. And she's an influencer. She has she has a podcast. She teaches entrepreneurs how to build businesses, all these things. And she just straight up disappeared. And everyone was like, of course her inner circle knew where she was, but everybody online, she has 30,000 followers, was like, where'd she go? Is she okay? Da-da-da. Well, anyway, then she just came back online in the new year, and she's doing her 3rd episode of her podcast. And she's just sharing about all of this healing. She basically, her body completely shut down on her. She was just completely broken, all this stuff. And she went through this intense 6-month healing season. And so now on her podcast, she's sharing about all of the things that she experienced, what she did. She had her counselor on. She's talking about health. She's talking about all sorts of stuff. She's talking about spiritual healing, emotional healing, mental healing. It's really good. But anyway, I'm like, man, I just feel like that is what everybody needs. Everyone just needs to be you know what? This is my healing era. I am going to look in the mirror. I'm going to sit with myself. I'm going to get real about my childhood traumas and all the ways I've been hurt. And I'm going to connect with my spiritual life. And I'm going to talk to myself in a positive manner. I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to move my body, all these things, because healing is holistic, and just do it. And I just feel as a country, we would be so much better off.
You just solved it all there.
I know.
So I would like to land us here and kind of go into our unpopular opinion for church hurt number 2. If it's okay, I can kick it off.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So that leads into my final point. It's kind of like a 2-for-1. So 2-for-1 special. Be still. So the original point is my unpopular opinion is to be still, spend time with God, and he will expose everything in the situation. So if you give the hurt to him as you're still, and you hand it off and you go, God, this hurt me in this way. You can say I'm raging mad. I'm upset. I'm so broken.
I'm going to pause you. Okay. Let's just say that you're someone and like, maybe you've had experience with church. Maybe you've had experience with spirituality. Like maybe you haven't. Maybe you've never even. If you're like at home, because you don't have to go to church to experience Jesus. You can experience him anywhere you want. That's the beauty of the Holy Spirit.
At the Grammys?
Yeah.
Wow.
I bet you some people had him there in their hearts.
Nice. Definitely at a NASCAR event. Definitely.
If you're just like, I've heard you guys talk about this a little bit. Like I've heard about the Holy Spirit. Like healing sounds great. Like I would love, like if you're at home, like what do you do? What do you say? What do you do? What would be your suggestion if you want to experience the Holy Spirit and you want to start realizing things that have hurt you and start a healing journey with God?
That's it. That's an awesome question. There's so many different levels to this. Keep it simple.
Keep it
very simple.
Like
is
dummy proof.
Initially, when you first start, you're going to feel like you're talking to an invisible person, and you're going to feel a little bit crazy. I mean, I'll just call it how it is. You're going to be like, and then if somebody like watches you, so like you're on the other side of the room, and you see me kind of just like whispering stuff, you're going to be like, Cameron's lost it. He's lost it. So start with just imagine you're talking to an invisible friend that's sitting next to you. I'm not legalistic, so I don't believe in the whole, you have to close your eyes. So I was raised always close your eyes, bow your head, put your hands together. And that was for like fidgety kids to sit there and pray. But even then, like God wants our fidgetiness. Like that's fine. Like give it to him. So now I'm just like, all right, you're talking to an invisible friend. And I always start with like a dear God, even that, you don't want to, but God, man, this situation stinks. And talk to him in the language that you kind of talk, right? Like, that pissed me off and that hurt me really bad. And I'm upset and I don't know what to do that. All I feel is just burning rage and anger towards that person. And I don't know what to do, God. Can you help? Period. Then the best thing, and it's the most frustrating advice I'm going to give it, but it's like you'll learn to love it. Be still. Be still. It says, be still and know I am God. So then you just sit there. And I'll tell you this, most of the time as you're still, like things that you have to do come to mind. Like, oh, I left I need to do the laundry. I need to move the washer to the dryer. Oh, I forgot about that appointment I have tomorrow. Oh, at work tomorrow, I got to make sure I take care of this thing. Oh, I forgot about getting carpool set up for the kids. That stuff will come up. The more you do this, the less that garbage will come up. And then you'll have this most amazing, quiet peace go over you. I don't know how to explain, but it's like any good hobby. Don't expect to play the guitar for the first time and learn how to play it. If you keep picking it up for a minute at a time.
Basically what you're saying is don't overcomplicate. Sit somewhere.
Yep.
Try and find quiet if you can so you're not distracted.
I'll give you ideas. Do you have a favorite chair in your room?
Yeah.
I literally would like get on my knees in my closet before Delaney.
I do a lot of talking to God in the car because I'm not good at sitting still. I'm always busy. Like I have to keep moving. I'm a type 7 on the Enneagram, so I don't like to be bored. That's like my number one pet peeve is being bored. So like I
think we have that solved here in our life.
So when I'm driving, I'm forced to sit and stare in front of me. And it's like, I'll have like a podcast on or music or something. But then sometimes I'm just like, nope, let me just have some prayer time here. So like, that's a time that I like to do. But it's like, but just symbolize that like, God, I'm curious about you. I want to know more about you. Like I want to, start a journey with you. Like I want you to start showing me things. And like, I don't feel like I'm someone that necessarily like hears God's voice more. So it's like, I'll just feel something like deep in my soul and I'll be like, oh, that's it. Like, so it's more to my experience is more of like a feeling or a vision because I'm a creative. I feel like I see things. I don't necessarily feel like I like hear somebody talk to me. I don't. Maybe people do. I don't know.
I mean, you have 4 kids that always talk to you and ask you 100 questions.
And then I'm always like, was that my voice? Is that his voice? I don't know. But like, I think deep feelings or visions could be like another way that he's like, hey, maybe this, or like it may bring somebody to mind. And then you like could do some journaling about like, okay, yeah, what's with that relationship? Like this is a conversation I need to have, or I just need to forgive this person. Like this is so, I hate when I get exposed on this podcast. That's why it's so embarrassing. But something that I've been saying lately, it's like a mantra. And oh my God, when I was a kid, freaking my mom would always be like, you need to have like positive affirmations. Like she would make us like say things. It was like drove me nuts. And now I'm an adult and I'm like coming up with stupid affirmations for myself.
What is it? Share it, please.
Wait, I have to remember so I don't screw it up. Okay, it's I breathe in resentment and anger, and I breathe out peace and forgiveness. So as I'm like on more of a healing journey this year. Last year I was just trying to keep my head above water because we were so busy. Not doing that this year. So I'm trying to heal a little bit more this year. And so that's been like my mantra. So anyway, that might help with like, if someone comes to mind and you're like, okay, I'm going to start saying this to myself whenever I think about that person, when my blood starts boiling. So I think it's like, keep it simple and just start to like explore what that might look like.
That's beautiful. Yep. And so this is the year where we take all our church hurts and we heal them. We start towards the restoration. We heal our
healing era.
And that process starts with this being still and giving it to God. That's where we start. What about you? What's your unpopular opinion?
I had one.
Are you bringing back mantras maybe? Oh. Is your unpopular opinion you should have a mantra for everything?
Sometimes in the church it's like, oh, that's like hippie stuff, or that's like, I don't know. I don't know if mantras are like a common Christian practice.
I mean, we would just say like memorizing a Bible verse and then you just repeat it,
Yeah. So I
mean, if you want to hug a tree, go ahead.
Maybe it's more of like, it's like a prayer. It's like a mantra, but it's like a prayer. So it's like a prayer to God. Like I feel resentful and angry, but I'm trying to I want you to help me replace those feelings with peace and forgiveness. So it's like a prayer, kind of like to him, like, take these feelings from me, this anger and this resentment, and give me feelings of peace and forgiveness. So it's mantra, prayer.
So that's your unpopular opinion, is to bring back mantras and prayers?
I think I like hit all my points. I don't really have any other unpopular opinions.
No, I'm not here to judge your unpopular opinion. I think people like the mantra. I think people are going to respond and I kind of want to poll the audience. I kind of want to see what's out there and be like, is the mantra, do you find yourself throughout the day proclaiming something positive over yourself?
I know people who like do it with their kids and it's cute. Like I used to, we had one with Callie for a while, be brave, be bold, be kind. And we would tell her that like every time she went to school. So we've toyed with the mantras. I wouldn't say like we're like consistent or we're like stuck with one for like a certain amount of time, but I feel like over the years we have come up with some things to try and infuse some positivity into those little minds. God knows they need it.
Amen. We all need it. And so just to review, church hurt part 2, if you've experienced any hurt, understand number 1 is the enemy behind it. And I would go as far as to say, pray against the enemy, pray peace over it. So it's kind of complicated, but it's very simple. You're just going to go, God, please protect this relationship, protect this hurt. I give it to you. I don't allow the enemy to have a hold of it. So that's number 1. Number 2, always check the mirror, walk by the mirror. And, in some cases it is black and white. That has nothing to do with you. That was just hurtful and it came out of left field. You didn't warrant it, deserve it. And I'm not, I don't want to say that's what it is, but check the mirror. What is God doing in your heart? What's happening there? And then, where can you grow, which is kind of, part 2/B, where can you grow? And then let's get back to the dinner table. Let's get back to inviting these people. Let's be people that don't run away from it.
Confrontational.
Let's be amen, sister.
All right, maybe that's my unpopular opinion.
Oh my!
The church is so freaking passive. Be a little confrontational. Have some conversations.
Wow.
Now, don't be disrespectful. There's a difference. We've been having this conversation with a certain person in our home who is entering her preteen years. There's a difference.
I wonder.
Between sharing your feelings and holding someone accountable or versus like just being rude, like being disrespectful. Like you can tell someone, hey, this hurt my feelings and I would like to have a conversation about it to see if we can work on like, maybe you could talk to me this way or we could do this differently. But there's not like the eye rolling, the name calling, the slandering.
So filter it through the lens of love.
Like I think people think that confrontation has to be like aggressive or inconsiderate or nasty.
People watch too many like daytime television things where everybody's arguing or one of these like court shows.
If you don't know what to say to someone, literally just be like, hey, can we talk real quick? I just wanted to share something that hurt my feelings. And it's like, who's going to get mad about that?
Oh, and we use the I feel language. I feel. So let's I feel, and then say how you feel. Yeah, instead of you did this. If it wasn't for you, I'd be this.
Well, when you do that, you automatically shut people down. Like if you start accusing, it's like they don't want to engage in conversation with you.
So get back to the table or call people up. Start with the I feel. So I feel the certain way, right? And then finally, you just continue to keep spending time with God in that prayer. Keep it simple. Stupid simple is my philosophy.
Yeah, because maybe like right now it's like it's just too much to get to church. It's too intimidating. It's too unknown. It's just like the thought is just like you're not there yet. And it's like, cool, no problem. But like you can experience Jesus in your closet. So,
but I will say this. Fight for getting into church. I mean, and let me, it's so funny. Let's just call it how it is.
We're talking about two different audiences. Probably. I'm talking about someone who maybe has like never even been to church. I'm like,
give it a shot. Give it a go. You know what's so funny is every Sunday, we get the kids. How many times do we get the kids out the door in the week? How many times? All the stinking time. Then Sunday, we'll be like, oh, we have a day free. Let's try to go to church. What always happens?
Tantrums. I can't find my sock. I got a fart. You name it.
Yeah. Oh, the sky is too cloudy. Oh, this. And again, the enemies, that's our number one thing. The enemy's always out to get you. The enemy's always out to keep you from going to church.
You're pro go church. I'm not saying yes. We need to
and I'm pro find the right church, but yeah, I'm 100,000% because if the enemy's trying to tell you not to do something, I want to do the complete opposite of that. So if he's saying don't go to church, there's something special about a church.
We need to get back in church, but I'm also saying don't be afraid to explore your spirituality in your closet. That's it.
Oh, 100%. So you're saying have church in the closet. I'm saying have both.
But that's, you know what? Sometimes that's just like, it's too much. It's just like, it shuts you down and that's okay. Start somewhere.
So start in the closet and then go to the church. Yes. I like that. I can rally behind that. So, all right. Well, that's a wrap. Church hurt part deuce. Are we doing part deuce or part two? Part two? Part two.
Where's
people spoken? Yep. Okay. We thank you for listening. We're so excited to get back with you, and we're excited. We got some kind of cool things up and cooking behind the scenes. Oh, well, we just got to tell the people that so they stay engaged for sure. So thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Living Life with the Rogers. You can find us on Instagram at Living Life with the Rogers Family. We'd love to post on there and hear from our followers.
If you would like to hear future episodes, make sure to follow or subscribe to be the first to know when a new episode is released. See ya.